Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. I'm your host, Southern Puma, the jack of all trades, master of none, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different to what I normally do. I am going to be reacting to WrestleLamia. 10 people who made the mistake of calling wrestling fake to actual wrestlers. As this video is going live on Monday, June 16th at like 6:30 or so, I am going to be going live for Monday Night Raw, and I'll end stream about 10 minutes or so afterwards after everybody has a discussion about what they thought about the show. This is going to be my first time ever doing this, so bear with me here. I normally don't, even when I did do YouTube pretty consistently, I never really did this. This is going to be an experimental thing. If I end stream early, means it didn't really work out the way I wanted it to, or I got bored. Anyway, all that yapping done, let's check this video out. Now, I didn't finish the video, by the way. I didn't finish this. I just saw a few minutes of it, and I saw like a minute or two of it, and I'm like, you know what? Let's try it.
Between you and I, it's all fake, isn't it?
So this is called a body slam, is that right, Scott?
Now, one thing I will say, I respect anybody, and I mean anybody, that calls pro wrestling fake, but has the balls to step foot in a ring and prove it to themselves. To prove that wrestling's fake. The balls it takes, I will give them credit. And I'll also give them credit for taking the bump like he did, because he's an absolute fucking idiot who just realized wrestling ain't fake. It's scripted. People get hurt.
These people made the big mistake of calling wrestling fake. Number 1, Dana White calls pro wrestling fake.
Now this one's very ironic given he's with TKO now, which is in part aligned with WWE.
Would it surprise you that Dana White has called pro wrestling fake? The
Not
UFC
even
CEO
close.
had no qualms about calling professional wrestling fake in 2015, as he was responding to fans complaining about the crazy UFC prices for their pay-per-views. One fan tweeted, "I wish I could watch the Ronda Rousey fight tomorrow night. Vince got you beat there, Dana White. Our pay-per-views are only $9.99. And White said that shit should be $9.99 because it was fake. Now granted, White did follow up by saying that he didn't mean any disrespect to any of the pro wrestlers, but he doubled down. As you can imagine, wrestlers from all walks of life weren't happy about White's response, and various...
Hold on, let me go back and read Sheamus's. Because I haven't read Sheamus's response. It went by too fast. Some call UFC fake. It is. Fearless artistry combat evolved.
Imagine wrestlers from all
Good
walks
shit,
of life
Sheamus.
weren't happy about White's response, and various talents such as Austin Aries...
What did Aries say? This is what a fake headbutt looks like, Dana White. Complete with fake blood, stitches, and imaginary time off.
Bully Ray, Seth Rollins, and Jeremy Borash called him out. But White never changed his stance. But what's more interesting is that Brock Lesnar was asked about White calling professional wrestling fake, and the former WWE champion agreed with him. Well, of course, Dana, it's fake. Everybody knows that, but it's still the same. You're promoting the same thing we're promoting. Dana White is promoting fights. We're promoting fights. It just so happens that we got a little more longevity out of our fights and out of our fighters because of the circumstances. Now, Lesnar was quite mature with his response, whereas Dana came across as condescending and disrespectful.
Yeah. And here's the thing there. With Brock, right? He's been in professional wrestling for on and off 20 years, right? He knows that he knows that Dana was being disrespectful as fuck. When he says wrestling is fake, he doesn't mean it like Dana does. Brock means it as in it's scripted. When he says that we get more longevity out of our fighters and competitors and shit. That's due to it being scripted. We aren't having WWE and AEW and all the other wrestling companies aren't having their competitors legitimately punch people in the fucking head over and over and over again. Like, it should be common sense that wrestling may be scripted, but a lot of them are smart enough to do what they do with only effects later on in their lives. With UFC, it's barbaric and disgusting. With legitimate impact, not even 5 years into doing what they do. It's foolish. And the people in UFC that call wrestling fake and support that shit that should have been left in the freaking 600 BC Roman era need to go fuck off, in my opinion.
Wrestling and MMA are completely different. The sport of professional wrestling is a choreographed and predetermined sport where men and women put their bodies on the line on a weekly basis. In some ways, it felt as if White didn't really understand that notion.
No, you think? You think he didn't understand it? There ain't a brain in that bald head of his. Only thing that's in there is CTE and brain damage. That's the only thing that's in that fucking head.
Whatever the case, it's funny now that WWE and UFC are now partners, but White still feels the same way, probably because he doesn't understand the sport. Now, it may not be the grounded and realistic sport that MMA is, but the term fake for professional wrestling just shows a lack of understanding of what these men and women go through on a weekly basis. Number 2, Mia Khalifa calls wrestling not a real sport.
Okay, this is where I stopped it in the middle of this entry. Because this shit is hilarious. I actually remember the whole story here. So, in I think it was 2020, right before COVID, Mia Khalifa said that wrestling was fake and it was BS. Talking about Ronda Rousey, right? Her jumping over from UFC to WWE and having that successful year-long run. Hurricane, Shane Helms, then responded to her saying, how's about you come to a ring and you find out how fake this shit really is? Well, about 3 or 4 years later, she somehow gets in contact with Thunder Rosa, who then proceeds to bring her to a wrestling ring and show her how fake this shit really is. It was fucking incredible. It was some of the funniest karma I have seen in a long time. But yeah,
But there are some adult
let's
film
get this
stars
out
who
the
are
way.
actually fans of WWE. Kendra Lust is a big fan, and so is Jasmine Sinclair. But one adult star who's apparently not a fan of WWE is Mia Khalifa. She drew plenty of criticism when she stated that she had no respect for WWE and labeled it not a real sport. Now imagine an adult film star saying they don't have respect for wrestlers. Now Khalifa went on a rant following the rumors about Ronda Rousey signing with WWE. She tore into the former UFC star joining the company and stated that Ronda Rousey should do something respectful. Khalifa mentioned in a rant
Yeah, something respectful. Like selling your body online. Yeah, very respectful there. Very respectful there, Ms.
and this is where her career will go to die. Absolutely.
Yeah, she only made herself more of a box office draw than she already was. Like, come on.
Not. I have no respect for the WWE. I don't think it's a real sport, so I think that's where her career will go to die. Get a show on effing ESPN or Bravo or something and train people to fight. Do something respectful. Now, one WWE star who took extreme offense to Mia Khalifa's comments was Gregory Helms, aka the Hurricane, and he gently put her in a place, saying, I'm not gonna get upset that a porn star doesn't respect pro wrestling. She's entitled to her opinion. Our bodies take a pounding and, well, so does hers.
I gotta applaud. I gotta applaud Hurricane here. I had the timeline wrong, but doesn't matter. I got to applaud Hurricane for that comeback. Chef's kiss.
But Helms wasn't the only person that clapped back at Khalifa, as former WWE star Eva Marie confronted Khalifa on a Complex show Out of Bounds, where she educated.
Okay, I didn't know this one. Like, I didn't know this one. Good message? The exact wrong person to be delivering said message. One of the worst talent to ever come out of WWE. Actually, no. Let me put that aside. Eva Marie actually was a wrestler. Let me put that fucking thought out of my head. Let me calm down. Let me calm down
On
and
the
hear her
sport.
out.
Khalifa stood 10 toes down about wrestling not being a sport, but Eva informed her about the rigorous traveling schedule, the amount of athleticism it takes to survive the business, and the commitment needed to thrive in such an environment. All credit to Eva Marie, as she went to bat for pro wrestling, and though Mia Khalifa's mind didn't seem to change too much, she did get a better understanding about the sport overall.
I gotta maybe. Like what kind of makes me laugh about this is she was making these arguments, right? To someone who's been there and done that. And aside from my rant earlier about Eva Marie being complete trash, Eva talks from experience here. Eva Marie was in WWE for years. All the way up to like what, 2018 in her first run? That's fucking 5 years of that exact rigorous training, the training, like she said, the hellish on the road schedule, and the athleticism, putting their bodies on the line. Like, it really makes me laugh when people disrespect these wrestlers to their face. Like, Eva Marie's way more professional than I would have been. I would have leaped across that table and decked that porn star in the fucking nose.
Number 3, David Schultz slaps at John Stossel.
Speaking of hilarious,
Kayfabe isn't dead. Well, at least in the 80s it wasn't, as before the internet, smart marks, magazines, and YouTube personalities, wrestlers during this period went out of their way to ensure that kayfabe was alive and well in and out of the ring. Reporter
as
John
they
Stossel
should.
ran a story titled 2020 Expose on Pro Wrestling. The piece was quite a damaging one, as Eddie Mansfield explained most of the behind-the-scenes secrets of pro wrestling at the time. John Stossel was a brave announcer who ran the story, and the former 2020 newscaster had the balls to interview David Schultz. Now, according to Schultz himself, Vince McMahon told him to stay in character, but more importantly, Schultz was told to blast him. Now, it did sound like Vince McMahon was encouraging Schultz to hit Stossel, but the former WWE chairman reportedly meant in a verbal way. But as you can see, Schultz didn't take the verbal route. He slapped the piss out of the reporter not once, but twice, mentioning,
he
"Is
should've.
that fake?" It was certainly a memorable moment, but unfortunately for David, that one incident began the downfall of his career. Not surprisingly, Stossel filed a lawsuit against WWE.
Yeah, like a little bitch. With Dr. D, right? Was what he did completely foolish? Absolutely. 100% it was. But, but, it was absolutely hilarious to see that pedo stash looking motherfucker get his shit rocked. Absolutely hilarious. Absolutely hilarious to see that fucker get both his eardrums fucking busted. It was funny.
In turn, Schultz was suspended by the New York State Athletic Commission. The lawsuit was eventually settled out of court, but that didn't help Schultz's career in any way, shape, or form. Vince was reportedly trying to get Schultz to sign a statement that he acted on his own without any involvement from WWE, but David refused. As you can imagine, Vince McMahon wasn't thrilled with that answer. Despite sticking up for the men and women in professional wrestling, Schultz was ultimately fired, though that allegedly came after a backstage incident with Mr. T. His career never recovered after that incident, and while the wrestling landscape has tremendously changed since the 80s,
Mr. T, someone in the greater entertainment world who actually respects this business. Someone who deserves the respect. Fucking John Stossel don't deserve dick. In fact, he deserved to get his shit rocked for even daring to say that to someone like fucking Dr. D. David Schultz. Like, how dumb. This isn't balls here. This is stupidity. This dude's like, what? 6'6", 250 something pounds, maybe 260 something. Big motherfucker. Right? I'll just play the clip.
Schultz did his best to keep the sport of wrestling alive, even if it came to the expense
Never
of his
mind.
entire career. Number 4, Vader roughs up a reporter in Kuwait. And one thing you'll learn from this interview is that Vader is not a diplomatic guy. In 1997, Vader and The Undertaker did an interview in Kuwait, and they got asked that question, is wrestling fake? Surprisingly, Taker took a calm and restrained approach by answering the question without insulting the interviewer or getting hostile. But when you start to look at Vader as Taker answers the questions, you knew that trouble was about to start. After Taker's eloquent answer, the interviewer tried to move on, but the WWE Hall of Famer wasn't going to let him slide while calling wrestling fake. Vader said that he felt insulted by the interviewer's comments. That's to the point where Vader knocks over the table and grabbed the reporter by the tie. Vader had a great point in stating that not everyone can do what he does, but he clearly got pissed off when the interviewer snapped back by stating it wasn't his question. Meanwhile, Taker is seated with his shades on, cool and calm as a cucumber. Ultimately, this wasn't a David Schultz moment, as Vader just simply grabbed the guy by the tie and scared him a little. But what Vader's mistake was actually swearing on live television, which is illegal in Kuwait. Vader was then arrested and detained by Kuwait authorities for 2 whole...
I do love that the physical assault wasn't the thing that he went to jail for. Nah. The thing that he went to jail for was saying a no-no word on a fucking TV box. Oh, like he went to jail for cussing. Saying, does that fucking feel fake? That's what he went to jail for, people. Really? Repeat my point about Dr. David Schultz, but here.
weeks. He was fined about $164 for the incident, but again, whilst Taker looked calm during the interview, he mentioned in an interview with Shaquille Majori that Taker recalled the infamous moment, and apparently he wasn't as calm as he appeared to be during the incident. If it happened over here, I think I would have been a little more aggressive, but I'm trying to think, I think we might have been in Kuwait. We were over there in the Middle East. I'm just sitting there thinking. I've got my shades on and I'm sitting there with the belt and Vader. I could see it. I could see it coming long before it ever happened. I'm thinking to myself, don't do it, Leon. Don't do it. He's doing it. This is not going to be good. Number 5, Austin Theory threatens the editor-in-chief. Now, it doesn't matter what year it is, there's always going to be an ignorant interviewer who calls professional wrestling fake. That was the case in 2024 when a smug editor-in-chief named Anthony DeSegli dropped the F-bomb that set Austin Theory off. Austin Theory is a jacked dude, whereas the interviewer looks like a toothpick that Theory could easily snap in half. But Anthony's bravado easily dropped when Theory chastised the editor-in-chief for disrespecting him and threatened to slap Anthony silly. It was a justified reaction as Anthony's comments really came out of nowhere, and he seemed to look down on Theory's profession. But the confrontation itself wasn't long, as a former United States champion wisely walked away to prevent another lawsuit.
More professional, but also letting him know you don't do... Like, look at that! This fucking little prick. Looking about that big. Whereas Theory looking like a fucking train. Fucking freight train looking like he could snap this little bitch in half. Like Lamia said. And I really wanted him to. Because that's not something you just say. You know what I mean? Or at least it's not something that's not something you should say.
But at the very least, Austin's reward for standing up for professional wrestling was winning the WWE Tag Team titles.
As
Number
it
6,
should be.
Randy Orton and Soulja Boy. Randy Orton loves celebrities.
Okay, this one was just hilarious. I didn't really care too much about this one. This one was just a fucking social media beef, but this was fucking funny.
Especially Soulja Boy. Soulja Boy hasn't been popular for a very long time. In fact, he's now more infamous for being an online troll and pretends to be a gangbanger when the cameras are on. But how did Randy Orton and Soulja Boy get into a feud? Well, the controversial rapper tweeted that the rap game is faker than WWE. Orton caught wind of the post and he let those voices take over his Twitter fingers, saying, "Fake? Dare this prick to step up? He don't like movies? Consider us actors that do stunts without pads 200 days a year. Don't bitch when we get surgically repaired and come right back. Consider us 100 times tougher than anyone you've come across. Ain't nothing but a bitch ass," Orton said. Orton tweeted again that even Bad Bunny could beat the F out of Soulja Boy, and that finally caught Mr. Crank's attention. The rapper responded with his stereotypical tough talk, claiming that he would bring the real back into wrestling. "Do you know who I am? I bring the real to wrestling. Don't play with me, Randy Orton." But that wasn't it, and Soulja Boy doubled down on his statement about pro wrestling being fake. If you're mad because I spit facts, just say that. What you do is fake, and I stand on that. What I do is real. Come to your world? Huh, welcome to Soulja World.
Yeah, because you're too much of a bitch to actually step foot in the ring and actually, prove to yourself. Anyone mentioned in this video, none of you are going to watch this, not even close. Anyone mentioned in this video that didn't have the balls to actually step foot in a ring and actually try and prove that it's fake, finding out the hard way that it ain't, I dare any one of y'all to go to an indie show, go to something after the camera or after the show's done, or go to get in contact with somebody that's big in wrestling. Go to a ring. Have them show you the ropes, per se. No pun intended. Bet your opinion will change. Give you a body slam. Let him give you a fucking lariat the size of Texas. Dare you. Figure out how fake wrestling is then.
Orton and Soulja Boy went back and forth the entire day.
Now that's my funniest one. That's the funniest one. That is the funniest tweet of that entire thing. And I think that actually shut Soulja Boy up.
Clearly, Orton had the time that day. The former WWE champion eventually challenged Soulja Boy to come to his world, and he accepted, but this beef never went past social media.
Yeah.
That's certainly one of the oddest feuds in wrestling, especially since Soulja Boy is one of the fakest rappers in the game. But he got his 15 minutes of fame beefing with Orton, so mission accomplished to him.
And I guarantee you, aside from his actual rap game, that was the most attention he has gotten.
Number 7, Randy Orton threatens a reporter. And you know who Orton loves more than celebrities? Yeah, interviewers. That was the case during the time when Orton was interviewed by a Mexican reporter in 2009. The interview started off well enough, with the reporter asking him about what he eats for breakfast, but then randomly calls him fragile. This took Orton by surprise and really pissed him off. Randy Orton is a tall man, so the WWE star towered over the Mexican reporter, and it genuinely seemed that Orton was ready to beat him until next Sunday. Orton dared the reporter to call him fragile again, taking his glasses off. The reporter backed off, and so did Orton in a way, though threatening to headbutt someone's teeth through their skull probably kept the reporter up a couple of nights. Number 8, Roddy Piper and Bill Maher. Roddy Piper was never
Maher. Not Bill Maher.
Afraid to speak his mind. The WWE Hall of Famer certainly did during his appearance with Sting, Bobby the Brain Heenan, and Medusa during an episode of Politically Incorrect. Bill Maher is a controversial figure as he isn't afraid to poke the hornet's nest. Unlike many other reporters, Maher wasn't trying to be disrespectful when he essentially called wrestling fake, but he was ignorant and automatically assuming that wrestling doesn't come with any consequences. The whole interview started off with a very conversation when Maher asked if the audience was in on the joke. The whole vibe instantly became awkward, and you could tell that Piper was annoyed by this conversation again. Medusa, Sting, and Bobby Heenan were rather calm in their response, and so was Piper too, until Maher said that there's never been a bruise on any of them. That's when his frustration went into overdrive, and he dropped his pants to show the scars that he received throughout the years of wrestling. But the line that really stuck was Piper telling Maher to ask Martha Hart if the business was really just a joke. And the interview never reached.
Yep. And that's the line one of the lines I will always say when someone says, "You know that's fake, right?" I'll say, ask Owen Hart, ask Chris Benoit, ask Mick Foley, Undertaker, any wrestler, Jericho, Eddie Guerrero, Chavo Guerrero, anyone who has had any sort of injury or anything like that. Ask them if wrestling's fake. They will show you, like Roddy Piper here, rest in peace, you fucking legend, that has a wrestling has a price that everyone pays.
Reaches Vader levels, as Piper really brought it home nicely when he explained why wrestling isn't fake. This was actually a good conversation, as Maher was receptive to what the wrestlers were saying, and he wasn't trying to be a douche and tear everyone down. As tiring as this conversation was at the time, it was a healthy way to discuss the realness of professional wrestling. Number 9, Giant Haystacks gives a body slam to Jackie Fullerton. We've seen wrestlers slap reporters and threaten to crack their skulls, but you can add body slamming a reporter to that list as well. In this case, never ask a wrestler to perform a move on them. Giant Haystacks was on the Northern Irish TV show Good Morning Ulster, hosted by Jackie Fullerton, and the size difference isn't hard to miss.
I mean, like, look at him. Fucking look at him. Dude's massive. Like, come on.
So when Fullerton asked Haystacks to show him a move, Haystacks obliged to the request and gave him the hardest power slam that he could do on the floor. You can tell that Fullerton...
I've never actually seen that one before. Oh, that made my skin crawl. Let me just replay this.
Difference isn't hard to miss. So when Fullerton asked Haystacks to show him a move, Haystacks obliged to the request and gave him the hardest power slam that he could do on the floor.
Deadlift too. Deadlifted that shit too. Oh, that was all power. God.
You can tell that Fullerton was the wrestling is fake type, as he stated that he thought that people in the ring were play acting, but it was clear that the reporter was hurt. In fact, Fullerton reportedly broke a couple of ribs. Meanwhile, Haystacks could care less about hurting the poor man. It was a mystery why Haystacks decided to hurt the reporter until 10 years later, when the pro wrestler and Fullerton reunited on the Northern Ireland television show. There was definitely some awkwardness between the two, but the interview was rather light-hearted. Haystacks was asked why he hurt Fullerton, and he stated that the reporter was one of the non-believers. The second meeting was definitely more friendly than the first, and surprisingly, there wasn't any lawsuit filed following that infamous moment.
Nah, I wouldn't think there would be. Because these are two grown-ass men. Unlike Dr. D. David Schultz and the little bitch that he slapped 1 and 2. These two are two actual grown men who can handle their fucking differences.
At number 10, Vince McMahon calls John Melendez white trash. And what's a shocker that Vince McMahon didn't slap John Melendez? Now, if you look up the word troll, then you would find John Melendez's picture right next to it. Known as Stuttering John Melendez, he was known for his bold and outlandish interviews with Barbara Walters, Jennifer Flowers, and Richard Gere. But Melendez finally got the chance to interview Vince McMahon.
Now, I actually have a story. I actually have a story about Stuttering John. So, before my mom passed, she was actually, for like a few months, a pretty big fan of his YouTube streams. He's doing a lot of political YouTube streams, and my mom was very political. Anyway, she was actually a big fan of his until one moment where uh back back when Joe Biden was running for president and Kamala Harris was running for vice, he called her Kamala Harris. And that God love her. That just sent my mom over the fucking hill. She she sent a little message in the live chat saying it's Kamala and just kept on hammering it. And John's like, okay, okay, okay. And give the dumb fuck credit. He actually stuck to that. He actually stuck to calling her Kamala for the rest of the time. And my mom never let me hear the end of that. But I don't know if she knew about this clip or not, but if she did, she'd be even less of the fan of that scum beneath my boot.
During the WrestleMania 19 press conference, Melendez asked all kinds of wild questions, such as how much money he has and his feud with Hulk Hogan is fake, like wrestling. Vince McMahon was surprisingly calm throughout his entire interaction with him, though it's quite possible that Vince knew who he was dealing with, as Melendez was a popular name in the early 2000s. However, what got Vince to call him white trash was his question asking if he's amazed by all the white trash that comes out to see his wrestling shows, but Vince fired back by stating that they didn't have any white trash, except for present company. Now, this interview doesn't come as close to his Bob Costas interview, but something told us that if Vince McMahon met Mr. Melendez in a parking lot, then a mugshot of Vince would have been made hours later. What do you guys think of?
Not even hours later, minutes later. Alright, guys. That one was an actually hold the phone 30 fucking minutes. Oh my god, I did not realize I went on for that long. Anyway, god, lord. Okay. Thank y'all so much for watching. 30 minutes. Fucking hell. How did I double the length of the fucking video? Anyway, thank y'all so much for watching. If y'all liked it, hit the like button. I'll leave the link to WrestleLamia's channel in the description, like that fucking matters. Motherfucker has what? 2.17 million subs. It doesn't fucking matter, but I'm gonna do it anyway to cooperate with YouTube's TOS about reaction videos. Because you got, or not YouTube's TOS about it, more like the ethics of reaction videos. Because a lot of people just drop the video, bunch of TikToks, don't even credit them and say, fuck it. What I'm, like, the ethics of it, I gotta put the link in the description so you can watch the original. I'll do that. I don't have a problem doing that for the record, but this doesn't make, it doesn't really help Lamia at all, because fucking less than 200 subscribers to 2 million. I mean, come on. But rambling. Thank y'all so much for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Deuces.